Thank you, Madam President and members. First, let me say that I have a tremendous amount of respect for the author who has opened his door to me over the past 2 years and taken my hard questions with regard to the direction of this bill, and irrespective of whether this bill passes off the floor or doesn't pass off the floor, the one thing that I appreciate about him is that we can agree to disagree and we will still remain friends. But I can tell you that in the 2 years that we have been talking about a bill, that the bill that was originally discussed and conceived is much different than the bill that we are seeing here today. So, Madam President and members of the Senate, I respectfully stand in strong opposition to SB 10. Colleagues, I think we can all agree that the current bail system is broke in regard to the financial disposition of the individuals that are impacted by some of the bail that's being requested of them or their families. That being said, colleagues, we need to reform the bail industry and not throw the baby out with the bathwater. This model we are considering implementing has already been tried in New Jersey, as my colleague alluded to before, and the results show a strong financial burden far beyond the estimated cost to the government. Should we not learn from others' costly mistakes just to make a political statement? My colleague talked about the 6.6% failure to appear rate in California. That means that 93% are showing up to court in accordance with our bail. The 7% that don't show up are not the government's responsibility. We know that the government can't do things as inexpensively and as efficiently as the private sector. And this is where the bail industry has helped us. They're the ones that go across state lines. They're the ones that go internationally and bring criminals back to jurisdictions so they can face their accusers and go to court. The example of Kentucky was used. My friends, Kentucky has 10% of the population of the state of California and has 50% of the poverty that has been the result of bad policies over the past 3 decades in the state of California. Some initial estimates for the cost of implementing SB 10 for the counties collectively, my friends, is about $3.8 billion. I don't know about the counties that you represent, but I can tell you that the county of Riverside cannot endure more financial insults of the state on their ability to provide essential services for the 2.5 million people that live there. That's $3.8 billion the counties will be forced to apply to the Commission on State Mandates for cost reimbursements, which is a lengthy process. We're talking about developing pretrial service departments in every county, staffing them, funding them through other means due in part to the nature that we cannot charge the defendant for any of these services. Again, we cannot charge the defendant for any of these services. Why are we not looking next door to us in Nevada at their bail system, which adds an indigent fee to every bond that is issued to help those who are nonviolent and poor to get bailed out? It works. The other aspect we are not even addressing is the complete destruction of an industry in this state, an industry that is overwhelmingly made up of people of color and women. In fact, African American women have been the most successful demographic in the industry and find a very good entrepreneurial opportunity in California with the bail bond industry. So first, we're going to model a policy that is bankrupting the pioneer state. Second, we're going to destroy an industry that is predominantly run by minorities and women. And finally, we are giving the choice of confinement versus release to judges. Let us not forget that judges are humans as well. that are susceptible to the same implicit and explicit bias that everyone else is open to. With judges looking at the defendant using the risk-based system, plus their implicit bias, we are allowing the issue of unfair confinement to perpetuate. And I think that's why we see organizations like the ACLU that are now opposed to this bill. You know, this bill has referenced the California Department of Insurance report from February this year in regards to recommendations for California's bail system. The first finding of the report covers the very need to reform the overall bail system, which we are all here and we are all in unison on. While the report's first recommendation for reform is centered on increasing pretrial services and own recognizance, the recommendation is not to toss out bail entirely. In fact, the report has a great deal of recommendations that I think we can all agree on as meaningful steps in the right direction for bail reform. These ideas include, but are not limited to, making bail hearings more available with faster turnaround for individuals to address the need for bail or be released. Re-examining the bail schedules to a form of a statewide schedule to bring the disproportionate bails across the state ranging from $5,000 to $50,000 for the same crime to one fair statewide schedule. Improving the oversight and regulations of the bail industry itself to include the idea of licensing bounty hunters and requiring warrants before bringing defendants to jail. And finally, requiring bail agents to return premiums when charges are dropped. All of these recommendations are well thought out, and I believe most of them could be agreed upon by members on both sides of the aisle. I implore you, my friends and colleagues, we took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of this state and the United States. The Constitution explicitly states in Article 1, Section 12, that unless the offense is a violent felony, bail must be set, and under SB 10, this will be violated. SB 10 has more faults and flaws than it does merits and justice. We owe it to our constituents, and indeed the whole state, to vote no on this bill. The net result of passing this bill today, my friends, I know the bill is not trying to, but I believe we are going to see mass incarceration. We are going to see the elimination of an entire industry. Our business friendliness, my friends, in the country is not at the top, and this certainly is not going to help that image of the state of California. Potentially innocent people will sit in jail. They will lose their jobs until they can be heard by a judge and their case is adjudicated. For all these reasons and many more, I urge a no vote on SB 10.